Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for waiting so patiently for this chart reading. I can't talk. I'm going to just kind of look around at your chart and talk about what stands out for me. And if something really stands out, I'll probably spend more time on it. But just to get you kind of an idea of who you are as a person and what's going on in your life at all times. The first thing I notice when I look at it is that you have a mystic rectangle, which is very special and quite rare. It means there's an X of red. Those are two oppositions, and they are boxed in with two sextiles and two trines, making a rectangle. Um, in order to make a rectangle in the middle of a circle is that you have to have an X. You have to have two forms of oppositions. So that includes Mercury, Venus, Uranus, and Mars. And your Mars is at 0 degrees and it's retrograde. In fact, Uranus is retrograde as well. So two retrograde planets on it and three personal planets, Venus, Mercury, and Mars. It's a kind of a big deal what you got going on right here. And yeah, and actually, just before I even go any further, you were born at 8:28 a.m., May 7th, 1982. You're a Taurus with a Gemini ascendant at 29 degrees and a Pisces midheaven. Okay, that's very interesting. And you have your sun opposite your moon. You were born on a full moon. Sorry, that was kind of like sporadic and all of that fun stuff. Okay, so let's go into your mystic rectangle and what that means to you. Um, First off, you have to kind of know then what the bad parts about it are, what the oppositions are, what you have to deal with. The fact of the matter is that you not only have this Venus-Mars opposition, but it's part of a T-square with your Neptune, meaning it's very hard to get out of this particular opposition. But you do have the mystic rectangle to make you stay out. Normally, when I talk about mystic rectangles with my friends who are astrologers, I like to take the con side, that a mystic rectangle is completely difficult to handle. And all of my astrologer friends take but mystic rectangle people are so capable. They're amazing. They have so much balance, yada, yada, yada. And I'm always like, no, it really sucks. So I want you to know that I'm wrong. I mean, I am. Like, mystic rectangles are awesome. But I feel like in order to really, truly get to the bottom of it, you have to know why it sucks and you have to feel that energy and you have to own that energy, and then you have to know that that energy is actually carrying you to great heights. When my friend, she actually used the words mystic rectangle people are more than capable. And I think that's what you have to kind of think about everything in your life. You're being forced to move forwards at all times, even if that comes in a bad light. Um, Even your bad decisions, even though the dumb things that you're going to do sometimes and the awful things you might even consider doing, is that your will still move you forward because of this mystic rectangle. The universe wants you to succeed in spite of yourself. And that is why it's so cool, because we all have our own shit. We all do our own crappy things. And a lot of times our crappy behavior holds us back. That is not true for a mystic rectangle person. You will always be propelled forward. So back up to that. Here's your opposition of your Venus opposing Mars. Mars is 0 degrees. That means it has no karma, basically. It can go either way. It's a clean slate. And it's in Libra. So this means you can either be super passive aggressive, super, with a great inability to do anything, to have any passion about anything. You just kind of stay back. You're like a wallflower. Or you can go in this crazy self-righteous justification, yelling at everybody who doesn't agree with you way. And you can go both ways, and you might often go both ways anyway because of this opposition to Venus in Aries. Your Venus in Aries loves, and it loves hard. And so when you're loving and then maybe getting bored, even your sex drive is kind of like, I don't like this at all. This is not working for me. But when your sex drive is like super happy, even though it doesn't know what it wants to do because it's Mars at 0 degrees, your love life might be failing. And then it has these two squares to Neptune, which is right on your descendant, which tells me a lot of your ability, your whole entire love life might be just some cluster of um, finding out too much about somebody and then getting super irritated with them and knowing that they don't fit into your life, but then always falling for the same type of people that are bad for you on a regular basis because at least they make you feel something that you have a hard time feeling in general. Does this make sense? I feel like I'm rambling about this because I know that you are married, and this is where this comes. If you just had this Venus, Mars, Neptune T square in your chart, I would say you have some pretty bad love life karma. You're never going to get married. But it's not true because you have all these outs with your mystic rectangle. You can move forward in your love life, even though none of it makes sense. Just kind of like I said, because I felt like I was talking about it, and I'm like, Neptune opposite Mars, Venus square, blah, blah. And I was like, I am rambling and I'm not making any sense. And that's kind of like your love life. It shouldn't make sense. There's no possible reason why you should have a love life that's functional, yet you will. You always will, because here, Mars is sextile Uranus. Mars is trine Mercury. Venus is sextile Mercury. Venus is trine Uranus. You have this beautiful out that your mind is more than capable of handling your love life. You logically can consider, and it's in the 12th house, so subconsciously and almost unconsciously, you are able to find people to bring into you that complete you, that are, the best bet for your life. Uranus is rebellion, and that rebellion, and you are a rebellious person. And what is Uranus? Uranus is kind of like, it's rebellious, but it's also like quick action, stuff that happens out of nowhere, crazy occurrences. That stuff is all supporting your Venus and your Mars, meaning out of nowhere, like lightning strikes, here somebody will come into your love life and blow everything out of the water. And that's just kind of what happened. It's not even like a lucky thing. It's more of just a freak accident thing, but it's kind of cool. I don't know how much of that you can actually feel in your life personally because your moon is not involved, but it's definitely happening on the outside of you. Yeah, so let's go into then your Uranus Mercury opposition, because if Uranus and Mercury were helping out your Venus and your Mars really well, Uranus and your Mercury are not actually working together, they're at odds. Mercury is is your mind. Uranus is that freak accident, it's your rebellion, it's also your insane intelligence. And so having Uranus and Mercury together in some way shows that you are completely, hugely intelligent. But you may not always feel it. You might feel like you're going a little bit crazy. You might feel like there's so much madness in your life and that you don't understand logical things, that they have to be completely random and crazy for you to understand them. But maybe you weren't good at school, or but your genius came in a different way. Now, all of this then is supported by that mystic rectangle. Now you have your Mars and your Venus supporting this opposition of your mind, of feeling insane. And Venus sextiling Mercury and trine your Uranus is saying there's a really nice, sweet vibe to all of this. There's love to this. This means you can never break down and become super crazy because Venus is supporting you. Mars there is supporting you, even though your Mars is so insane. I love it. Retrograde, actually, just random. Retrograde means that it goes inwards. There's a lot of Mars passion inwards. Your anger is turned inwards. None of it is outwards. But I do think it's hard for you to be a self-starter. But with its sextile and trine to Mercury and Uranus, you feel it does help you move, even if that move is spontaneous and not necessarily because of your own self-starting. I'd also say that this mystic rectangle causes some anxiety to you because it might always feel like stuff happens to you and that you're not the person who makes it happen. Like all of a sudden you look and you're like, ooh, I don't know if you felt this. I mean, it's difficult when I'm not talking to you here, but let's pretend like I am. It would be like you're walking down the aisle getting married and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? How did I end up here? But you're like, okay, I guess I'll just keep going. or like you have a job, all of a sudden you get out of college, you go to a job interview, you're in this job and you're like, whoa, how am I at this desk? You don't realize all this stuff is just happening because it's perfectly combusting in your chart at all times. And so I'd say with you, if this does cause you anxiety, and Mercury opposite Uranus will cause anxiety. What's your Pluto? You have a Pluto sextile to Neptune, which is nice, but your Pluto's retrograde. Oh yeah, you do have Pluto in an aspect to your Mercury, but not to your moon, which is good. I mean, you do have some support of your sun to your Saturn too, but your moon is opposite your sun, which is like a big deal. So that also can cause anxiety. So if you have anxiety, if you have that, just allow yourself to breathe and know that there's not a whole lot you have to do for your life to happen. So don't, and I'm not saying that you can be lazy or whatever, but I'm saying don't put so much pressure on yourself to perform to do this, because if you do, you might find that your life gets on this crazy spiral and is completely out of control and out of your hands, and that's not what you want. You need to take ownership and control. And so anytime that you can make a decision for yourself, you should. Anytime that you can express your opinion, you should. Anytime you can say, no, I don't want to do this, I want to do this, go do it. Anytime. And I say that would help your Mars get to work, because otherwise your Mars is going to be hanging out there kind of sad. And I mean, Mars, passion, aggression, sex drive, all of that, even decision making is a big part of Mars. That's why Aries people are so good at decision making and Libra people are not. Your Aries and your Libra are stunted in general, and your Mars, being the sign that rules Aries, is in its fall in Libra, being more stunted at 0 degrees, which is stunted, and retrograde, which is stunted, meaning it might be really completely hard for you to take any sort of control at all through your life. And that mystic rectangle is the only thing keeping you going, making things happen. So every time you can, you need to stop, collaborate, and listen to yourself, to what your needs are, to what they are. Who do you want to be? What do you want to see? Where do you want to go? Is this the life that you want? And the decisions that have been made for you, analyze them. Do you agree with it? Because maybe you won't disagree with the decisions made for your life. Maybe you won't disagree with the universe, and you don't want to necessarily push too far back against the universe, but you also want to know that you're making your own mark, and it's not just leading you to a place where you're very confused about it. And I like to explain in stories. I've had Mercury, or my Mercury, being aspected by Uranus, and now it's coming to an end in May. And as you can see, with what takes me so long to do these videos, and I have these little like crazy panic attacks where I have to like stop doing everything. It's because for 2 years, like, my life has gone faster than I can handle it. Everything has moved in a way that I had no control over. I don't have any control over anything. And I didn't even like get ridiculously famous or anything, which I can't even imagine what happens to those people when that kind of stuff happens. Like all of a sudden they're just like Daisy Ridley in Star Wars. You know, she's just the normal person thrown into an extraordinary adventure, and now everybody knows who she is. And that kind of crap, though, I can see happening in your life. And if you're not careful, then and I say if you're not careful, because that's what I read about this Mercury opposition to Uranus thing that I thought was like, I was like, oh, if I'm not careful, of course I'll be careful. I'm always careful, but it still happens anyway. If you're not energizing yourself, if you're not giving yourself love, if you're not telling yourself that it's okay, if you're not resting, if you're not making your decisions, life will spin out of control. And you won't be able to keep up with what you're supposed to be doing. And it's true, and it sucks. And then you just have to stop everything, and then you miss out on adventures and whatever else could have happened in that time if you just chose your battles, if you chose. And that's also, choosing is what gives us happiness. Not choosing, giving other people control, is what makes us feel like life is nothing, right? And because you have a Gemini ascendant at 29 degrees, you're highly intelligent. Um, you know a lot in general, and your Mercury is in the 12th house. So information pours into your brain like psychically. There's so much that you know. There's so much that you in general just you have to keep up with. And so many people probably want to take from you because of that. And so you do have to protect yourself, hold a lot of barriers, hold a lot of barriers, put a lot of barriers between you and other people so that they can't grab at you, so that they can't rip off your metaphorical skin or realistic skin. I don't know what they want from you, but reading your chart actually gives me anxiety. It makes me a little bit taken advantage of, if that makes sense. Because I feel like that's a little bit of that's what happens to you. And so I just say that's your biggest thing if you're going through it right now. I mean, you're my age. You're not a spring chicken, but you have so much more life to live that if you are working on making your own choices, then you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in your life. And that will lead you to greatness, basically. You have your Venus in the 10th. Your Sun is in the 11th house. You have a stellium in the 5th house. You probably have some creative blockages because you have Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter and Moon there. But those creative blockages will work out if you start choosing. If you start doing what you want to do for you. And also understanding, I think when normally people are born on a full moon, they find that their parents are completely different, that their parents are opposing each other, that your mom and dad couldn't have been any more different, and both their genes are in you, so you are them, and they're different, so you're a psychopath. It's okay. My chart's similar. So you have, but if you just look at that and be like, wow, you're just kind of more well-rounded. You just have so much more information. Your dad probably wanted to snuff out one part of you and your mom wanted to snuff out the other part of you, which also happens. When your parents are different, they either don't like themselves in you or they don't like the other person in you. It depends on if your parents are still married. If they're still married, they probably like the other part of you better than what is resembling to yours, but resembles yours. But if they're separated, they probably hate the part that is like the other person. And so in that way, that can stunt your own creative growth because they might have made it hard for you to be yourself, to express yourself in your true light. And I do think that decision making, all of that goes back to that Mars. All of that goes to choosing and doing your own thing for yourself at all times. And always asking yourself, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go today? Making little I can't talk. God, I never can. Making little strides in your personal life that will eventually be big leaps, which will take you in utilizing all of your creative abilities, all sides of you, all facets of your life, and you'll have complete control over who you are and what you want to present to the world. Now, at the same time, that mystic rectangle is going to carry you into fate. Now, I'll say at the very end, your mystic rectangle is fated. It's destiny. It's beautiful. It's lucky. It's special. It's rare. And it's yours. So you can use it. It doesn't have to use you. And that is your chart reading. Thank you so much for your time, and I will talk to you later. Goodbye.